If you've ever wanted to ask an SR-71 pilot questions about what it was like to fly the Blackbird, here's your chance. As I've done public speaking about my experiences flying the Blackbird during its last few years of operational use by the Air Force, the question and answer session at the close of my talks usually proved to be the most interesting part of the event. Many times I had to abbreviate answers in the interest of time. I don't have to give shortened answers in these pages. I hope I can give you the detail you're seeking. Since I've always enjoyed reading question and answer formatted material, I chose to use it here. Many are questions that you would have asked me personally, but some are questions you might never have asked. I hope you find this question and answer approach intriguing. Feel free to approach them any way you like. Take them in order or skip right to those you find most interesting. In any case, I hope you enjoy reading about the SR-71 and some of my personal experiences while flying it. Thank you for your interest in my thoughts. Terry Pappas, SR-71 pilot. Question 1. When did you first know you wanted to fly the Blackbird? I first knew I wanted to fly the Blackbird in 1982. I was going through aircraft commander training in the B-52G at Castle Air Force Base in Merced, California. It was a grueling 6-month-long course. While there, I learned that an old friend that I'd flown with early in my career was stationed in Northern California. His name was Bill Burke. We had been T-38 instructor pilots together in our first flying assignments at Reese Air Force Base, Texas. Bill had been one of my best friends during those early years in West Texas. We were both just out of college and flying in the same squadron. He was a tall, muscular guy who had been on the swim team for Florida State University, Seminoles. And since I graduated from the University of Florida, Gators, we had a good-natured rivalry from the start. We became good friends and had some great times flying together. We had partied hard, typical of the way 25-year-olds do, sometimes going sleepless for an entire weekend. Occasionally, we'd be flying across the country in a T-38, affectionately known in its early days as the White Rocket. Of course, we were getting our required training, which included plenty of unfamiliar airfield approaches and landings. We like to call them strange field procedures. So in 1982, when I realized that Bill and I were both stationed at bases in California, I contacted him and made plans to drive up and visit him one weekend. I drove north from Castle Air Force Base to Grass Valley and met him and his wife Sandy at their home in a beautiful planned community called Lake Wildwood, near Penn Valley, California. Of course, we had a party that night. Bill introduced me to many of his friends, most of which were pilots at Beale Air Force Base, there in Northern California. Some were U-2 pilots, which I learned was an aircraft that Bill had flown there for several years. Some were SR-71 pilots and RSOs, and I learned that Bill was now a Blackbird pilot. He told me a little bit about the aircraft and mission, and I was very interested in what he was saying. By the time the weekend was over, it occurred to me that someday maybe I could apply to the program and be lucky enough to fly the Blackbird.